Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well today. It's Monday when I'm recording this, but I don't know what day or of the day or night it is where you are. But I hope wherever and whenever you are, you're paying attention to the signs in the clouds, in the sky, all of the signs. You know, if something looks strange in the sky and you can't quite figure it out, take a picture and analyze it later when you have a moment. I asked God today for a sign of when am I going to see my one true love, my twin flame. When will he and I be together? And I asked if it was possible to get a number or something. So muzzle testing said yes. And about 20 minutes later, it appeared in the sky. Not a number, not, the word spelled out like April 2020, like I was hoping, obviously. That would be the easiest kind of sign, but oh no. God had to give me a sign from the I Ching, the Book of Changes. So across the sky were 2 solid lines and 4 broken lines below it. I looked it up and I'm going to read it to you guys because it might be relevant to you as well. 20. Overview. During a period between events, the practice of stillness with awareness is a good idea. I'm assuming God means the 2 events would be me now, today, and the day in which I meet my twin flame. So, by observing and absorbing the true nature of things, by apprehending the rhythms and cycles which guide all creation, can we discover the laws that apply to our lives. Examine yourself and the overall situation, not just with the thought of discovering truth, but with the idea of focusing your personal power. This is a time to see and be seen. I'm still contemplating that one, but crazy that was my message in the sky. It's like if I had no experience with the I Ching or Book of Changes, I might have missed the sign. There's just these weird lines across the sky, and they were vermilion pink again against a baby blue background. It was so weird. The sky was very weird today, and it's always unique and different and amazing here. And I woke up this morning and it was just 20 different shades of gray in the clouds. And an hour later, it was like 5 or 6 shades of blue, steel blue and cobalt blue. And the clouds themselves were blue. And then when the clouds would move away, you'd see the baby blue background of the sky. It was beautiful today, honestly. My son and I had a great deal of fun having a conversation with each other while also simultaneously watching the sky change from grays and whites and blues to slightly golden to bright orange golden to pinks, vermilion, and back to orange, and then back to kind of an off-white color, like a cauliflower color. I mean, and the clouds started to look like cauliflower there for a minute. It was very weird. I don't know. I love it here. I know that there's other places in which the sky is beautiful. Montana is called Big Sky Country. At least that's what the license plates say. And I know that New Mexico has incredible skies. But there's just something about the clouds here. They're so weird. Like there could be like a big gray cloud that's just dark and looming. And then right in front of it will be like little teeny tiny dots. They're bright white. They're just dots. And they're actual clouds. They're not UFOs. I've seen, white dot UFOs, but this is something different. And I was telling my son, they got me every which way they could with internationalliving.com, when the way that they described Cuenca and how beautiful it is here. And in time, this became known as #1 retirement haven for expatriates the world over. This is an award-winning city for people to relocate to. And they did mention there was a cloud forest in the national park nearby, in Cajas National Park. But they didn't say how wonderful the sky is here in any of the articles. They were too busy looking at the expat life, the nightlife, the rivers, the natural beauty, but they didn't even look at the sky. And I think it's funny because since I've lived here now for 2 years almost, it'll be 2 years in November, every single day I'm in awe of what I see when I look out the window and I look up. And the signs in the sky, the clouds formulate words in English and Spanish. It's like the clouds are so, they're interactive with the people who are thinking, and impressing upon the formless substance, and it literally goes into the sky. I've seen clouds in the shape of hearts above certain houses, and then I saw when the clouds broke apart, looked like a broken heart. And a couple months later, it happened again. The heart was there, but the broken part wasn't. And I feel like that's somebody way over on the other side of the hill. There's a hill like on their side of this, there's like a valley and then it goes up. There's another hill. And, maybe this person's been really looking for love and really focused on it. And then they got their heart broken. And my son got pictures of that, with the broken heart. And we were like, that's absolutely, it looked like a cartoon. And I don't know if this is happening all over the globe suddenly, that we've hit the fifth dimension, that our thoughts are impressed upon the formless substance and recreated almost immediately in the clouds. But I know that the clouds are a medium for God to speak to us, and we can very well easily see the signs in the clouds. I've seen it where it just says hi. When I was in the Amazon, I mentioned that before. It's the first time I noticed it. I looked up and just said hi, and I'm like, whoa, little H, little I, hi. And I was like, God just told me hi. No other clouds in the sky in the Amazon that day. Very weird, but awesome. So I hope you guys are remembering to look up. Look at the signs, man. If you've asked a question and you don't know the answer and a bird flies to the right, that means yes. If a bird flies to the left, it means no. If a bird flies over you, away from you, direct, the way you're looking, that means the answer's in the future. And if it flies over you, going to the past, behind you, then it means the answer's in the past. There's signs everywhere. You just gotta know where to look. You could do the same thing with the dog, running towards you or away from you, to the right or the left, like a pendulum. Animals will be a big part of it if you are in connection with animals and if you pay attention. Those of us who have eyes to see and ears to hear, we know the signs, and we have a great communication with the prime creator, or Mother Nature, if you will. Sometimes it's just your holy guardian angel getting in touch with you. So I want to remind you again, look up. Look up so that things will be looking up for you. In disclosurenews.it today at 10 a.m., they write, Light and medium variations are continuing since yesterday from 9 a.m. UTC. For the past 24 hours, we've been seeing continuous light movements since then. In the new graph, the highest peaks are shown at 2, corresponding to 19 UTC yesterday, and at 9:30 UTC today at 30 hertz. Then the 1700 report says a new peak at 30 hertz closed the activity in today's chart, but the light movements seem to continue. So 30, that was it in Italy. Let's see where we are at as far as our other 6 cities. Okay, so, all right. In California, the Schumann Resonance started off at midnight at 134 hertz frequency, and by 4 a.m. they were up to 140 hertz. And Hafuf, Saudi Arabia, started off at 110 hertz frequency at midnight, and they went up to 120 by 4 a.m. In Lithuania, they started off at 151 hertz frequency, and by 4 a.m. we're down to 149. And in Alberta, Canada, they went up a little bit, I think. They were at 219 at midnight, but they went down to 213 by 4 a.m. And as far as Northland, New Zealand is concerned, they went ahead and they started off at 25 hertz frequency at midnight, but they went down to 0 by 4 a.m. And in Hulului, South Africa, last but not least, they started off at 247 hertz frequency, which is pretty high, but they actually were ending at 263 hertz by 4 a.m., and that in Hulului is the largest number we've seen over the past 24 hours as far as the Schumann Resonance is concerned. Let's see, let me ask my higher guidance. I forgot to ask. God, am I connected to you? Yes. Answer's yes. Can you tell me where we are at as far as Ascension Symptom Scale? What we're feeling and as a collective whole? Are we above 96? Yes. Are we above 97? No. Are we at 97? Yes. So today we are 97 on the Ascension Symptom Scale. I got those answers. I arrived at these answers by doing muscle testing, kinesiology. I believe I did do a show on that, so you could go back and look in case you want to know how to do this for yourself. Today, in A Course in Miracles from the Foundation of Inner Peace, we are on lesson 112 today. So this is a morning and evening review. So the first review, which you should do on the hour, and then the second part of the review you do on the half hour. So on the hour is this, coming from lesson 93. Light and joy and peace abide in me. Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am the home of light and joy and peace. I welcome them into the home I share with God because I am a part of Him. That's what you should be thinking on the hour. Light and joy and peace abide in me. Now from lesson 94 is the second part of the review for today is I am as God created me. I am as God created me. I will remain forever as I was, created by the changeless, like Himself. And I am one with Him, and He with me. So on the half hour, you say, I am as God created me. So that is taken from lesson 112 from acim.org or A Course in Miracles. And these lessons are free and they're put out by the Foundation for Inner Peace. You could look up on the internet at acim.org, obviously, or you could download an app and all the lessons are contained in the apps and the apps are free. Such a deal. Such a good deal, man. All right, we're going to read the Spirit's book today. This is a continuation from last week. This is an incredible book, and it was scientifically proven that spirits do speak with the living. And this was written in 162 years ago. This was written in 1857. Was this book published in April of 1857? 100 years before my ex-husband was born. He was born in 1957 in April. So it's pretty crazy stuff. But we're going to go ahead and read from this book tonight. This is a very long book. We're going to be doing this one for a very long time, but it's very, very interesting because the author did go through a wide variety of questions. He was super curious about the world, and he asked the same questions of different psychic mediums, and the answers were always the same. And so he concluded scientifically that there's evidence that spirits do exist outside of us after they die, and they do exist in a way in which they can communicate with us. They're not just patterns in the environment, but they're not, I wouldn't say living, breathing, but they are alive on the other side of the veil. They're willing to talk to the people who have the ability of psychic sight or telepathy. So it's really, really interesting stuff. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into that right after this message. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. This is part 3 of the Spirits book by Allan Kardec, published in the year 1857 in France. And this is the second book inside that book. So it's called Book Second, The Spirit World or World of Spirits. Chapter 1, Spirits. Number 1, Origin and Nature of Spirit. Number 2, Primitive and Normal World. Number 3, form and ubiquity of spirits. Number 4, the perispirit. Number 5, different orders of spirits. Number 6, spiritual hierarchy. Number 7, progression of spirits. And number 8, angels and demons. Origin and nature of spirits. Question 76. What definition can be given of spirits? The spirits answer. Spirits may be defined as the intelligent beings of the creation. They constitute the population of the universe in contradistinction to the forms of the material world. Allan Kardec has a note. He writes, "The word spirit is here employed to designate the individuality of extracorporeal beings and not the universal intelligent element." Question 77. Are spirits beings distinct from the deity, or are they only emanations from or portions of the deity and called for that reason sons or children of God? The spirits answer. Spirits are the work of God, just as a machine is the work of the mechanician who made it. The machine is the man's work, but it is not the man. You know that when a man has made a fine or useful thing, he calls it his child or his creation. It is thus with us in relation to God. We are his children in this sense because we are his work. Question 78. Have spirits had a beginning, or have they existed like God from all eternity? The spirits answer. If spirits had not a beginning, they would be equal with God, whereas they are his creation and subject to his will. That God has existed from all eternity is incontestable, but as to when and how he created us, we know nothing. You may say that we have no beginning in this sense, and that God being eternal, he must have incessantly created. But as to when and how each of us was made, this, I repeat, is known to no one. It is the great mystery. Question 79. Since there are two general elements in the universe, viz. the intelligent element and the material element, would it be correct to say that spirits are formed from the intelligent element as inert bodies are formed from the material element? The spirits answer. It is evident that such is the case. Spirits are the individualization of the intelligent principle, as bodies are the individualization of the material principle. It is the epoch and mode of this formation that are unknown to us. Question 80. Is the creation of spirits always going on, or did it only take place at the beginning of time? The spirits answer, it is always going on. That is to say, God has never ceased to create. Question 81. Are spirits formed spontaneously, or do they proceed from one another? The spirits answer, God creates them as he creates all other creatures, by his will. But we must again repeat that their origin is a mystery. Question 82. Is it correct to say that spirits are immaterial? The spirits answer, how is it possible to define a thing in regard to which no terms of comparison exist and which your language is incompetent to express? Can one who is born blind define light? Immaterial is not the right word. Incorporeal would be nearer the truth. For you must understand that a spirit being a creation must be something real. Spirit is quintessentialized matter, but matter existing in a state which has no analog within your circle of your comprehension, and so ethereal that it could not be perceived by your senses. Okay, now Allan Kardec there's a couple of things. In the word quintessentialized matter, he has a subnote, but first we're going to go to his note that he wrote under that. So Allan Kardec writes, We say that spirits are immaterial because their essence differs from everything that we know under the name of matter. A nation of blind people would have no terms for expressing light and its effects. One who is born blind imagines that the only modes of perception are hearing, smell, taste, and touch. He does not comprehend the other ideas that would be given him by the sense of sight, which he lacks. So, in regard to the essence of superhuman beings, we are really blind. We can only define them by means of comparisons that are necessarily imperfect or by an effort of our imagination. All right, let's see. So the footnote he writes is, subsequent spirit communications have declared the universe to consist of three elements or modes of substantiality, viz. Soul, force, matter. And while asserting that the two former are non-material substances, restrict the term matter to the element from which bodies are formed, and that was the translation. All right, question 83. Is there an end to the duration of spirits? We can understand that the principle from which they emanate should be eternal, but what we desire to know is whether their individuality has a term, and whether after given a lapse of time, longer or shorter, the element from which they are formed is not disseminated, does not return to the mass from which they were produced, as is the case with material bodies. It is difficult to understand that what has had a beginning should not also have an end. So the spirits say, there are many things that you do not understand because your intelligence is limited, but there is no reason for rejecting them. The child does not understand all that is understood by its father, nor does an ignorant man understand all that is understood by a learned one. We tell you that the existence of spirits has no end. That is all we can say on the subject at present. Primitive and normal world. Question 84. Do spirits constitute a world apart from that which we see? The spirits answer, yes, the world of spirits or incorporeal intelligences. Question 85. Which of the two, the spirit world or the corporeal world, is a principal one in the order of the universe? The spirits answer, the spirit world. It is pre-existent to and survives everything else. Question 86. Might the corporeal world never had existed or ceased to exist without changing the essentiality of the spirit world? The spirits answer, yes. They are independent of each other, and yet their correlation is incessant, for they react incessantly upon each other. Question 87. Do spirits occupy a determinate and circumscribed region in space? The spirits answer, spirits are everywhere. The infinitudes of space are peopled with them in infinite numbers. Unperceived by you, they are incessantly beside you, observing and acting upon you, for spirits are one of the powers of nature and are the instruments employed by God for the accomplishment of his providential designs. But all spirits do not go everywhere. There are regions of which the entrance is interdicted to those who are less advanced. Ooh, interesting. Form and ubiquity of spirits. Question 88. Have souls a determinate, circumscribed, and unvarying form? The spirits answer, not for eyes such as yours, but for us they have a form through one only to be vaguely imagined by you as a flame or a gleam or an ethereal spark. And the follow-up question, is this flame or spark of any color? The spirits answer, if you could see it, it would appear to you it would appear to you to vary from a dull gray to the brilliancy of ruby, according to the degree of the spirit's purity. And then Allan Kardec writes a note, Genii are usually represented with a flame or a star above their foreheads, a sort of allegorical allusion to the essential nature of spirits. The flame or star is placed upon the head because the head is the seat of intelligence. Question 89. Do spirits employ any time in transporting themselves through space? And the spirits answer, yes, but their motion is as rapid as that of thought. Follow-up question. Is not thought the movement of the soul itself, a transportation of the soul itself to the place or the object thought of by it? Spirits answer, wherever the thought is, there the soul is, since it is the soul that thinks. Thought is an attribute. Question 90. When a spirit travels from one place to another, is he conscious of the distance he traverses and of the extent of space through which he passes, or is he suddenly transported to the place in which he wishes to go? The spirits answer, a spirit can travel in either way. He can, if he will, take cognizance of the distance he passes through, or he can rid himself entirely of the sense of distance. This depends on the spirit's will and also on his degree of purity. Question 91. Does matter constitute an obstacle to the movement of a spirit? Answer. No. Spirits pass through everything. The air, the earth, the fire, the water even are equally accessible to them. Question 92. Have spirits the gift of ubiquity? In other words, can the spirit divide itself or exist at several points of space at the same time? The answer is, there can be no division of any given spirit, but every spirit is a center which radiates in all directions, and it's thus that a spirit may appear to be in several places at once. The sun is only one body, yet it radiates in all directions and sends its rays out to great distances, but it is not divided. Have all spirits have the same power of radiation? That was a follow-up question. The spirits answer, there is a great difference between them in this respect. It depends on the degree of their purity. And Allan Kardec adds his own note. He says, each spirit is an indivisible and unity, but each spirit has the power of extending his thought on all aids without thereby dividing himself. It is only in the sense that the gift of ubiquity attributed to spirits is to be understood. It is thus a spark sends out its brightness far and wide and may be perceived from every point on the horizon. It is thus also that a man, without changing his place and without dividing himself, may transmit orders or signals, etc., to many distant points in many different directions. Perispirit, that's spelled Perispirit, perispirit. Question 93. Is the spirit properly so called without a covering, or is it, as some declare, surrounded by a substance of some kind? The spirits answer, the spirit is enveloped in a substance which would appear to you as mere vapor, but which nevertheless appears very gross to us. Though it is sufficiently vaporous to allow the spirit to float in the atmosphere and to transport himself through space at pleasure. And what he says, Allan Kardec has a note. He says, as the germ of a fruit is surrounded by the perisperm so the spirit, properly so called, is surrounded by an envelope which by analogy may be designated as the perispirit. Okay. Question 94. Whence does the spirit draw its semi-material envelope? The spirit's answer, from the universal fluid of each globe. For this reason, the perispirit is not the same in all globes. In passing from one globe to another, the spirit changes its envelope as you change a garment. Interesting. The follow-up question to that is, when spirits who inhabit worlds of a higher degree than ours come among us, are they obliged to take on a grosser order of perispirit? The answer that the spirits give is yes. They are obliged to clothe themselves with your matter in order to be able to enter your world. Question 95. Does the semi-material envelope of the spirit assume determinate forms, and can it become perceptible for us? The spirit's answer, yes, it can assume any form that the spirit may choose to give to it. It is thus that a spirit is able sometimes to make itself visible to you, whether in dreams or in your waking state, and can take form that may be visible, even palpable, for your senses. Different orders of spirits. Question 96. Are all spirits equal, or does there exist among them a hierarchy of ranks? The spirits answer, there are different degrees according to the degree of purification to which they have attained. Spirit hierarchy. Question 97. Is there a fixed number of order or degrees of purification among spirits? The answer that the spirits give is this. The number of such orders is unlimited because there is nothing like a barrier or line of demarcation between the different degrees of elevation. And therefore, as there are no fixed or arbitrary divisions among spirits, the number of orders may be increased or diminished according to the point of view from which they are considered. Nevertheless, if we consider the general characteristics of spirits, we may reduce them to 3 principal orders or degrees. We may place in the first or highest rank those who have reached the degree of relative perfection, which constitutes what may be called pure spirits. We may place in the second rank those who have reached the middle of the ascensional ladder, those who have achieved the degree of purification in which aspiration after perfection has become the ruling desire. We may place in the third or lowest rank all those imperfect spirits who are still on the lower rungs of the ladder. They are characterized by ignorance, love of evil, and all the low passions that retard their progress upwards. Question 98. Have spirits of the second order only the aspiration after perfection? Have they also the power to achieve it? The spirits say, they have the power in degrees proportionate to the degree of purification at which they have severally arrived. Some of them are distinguished by their scientific knowledge, others by their wisdom and kindness, but all of them still have to undergo the discipline of trial through temptation and suffering. Question 99. Are all spirits of the third order essentially bad? The answer by the spirits are no. Some of them are inactive and neutral, not doing either good or evil. Others, on the contrary, take pleasure in evil and are delighted when they find an opportunity of doing wrong. Others, again, are frivolous, foolish, fantastic, mischievous, rather than wicked, tricky rather than positively malicious, amusing themselves by mystifying the human beings on whom they are able to act, and causing them various petty annoyances for their own diversion. Spirit hierarchy. Question 100. Preliminary observations. The classification of spirits is based upon the degree of their advancement, upon the qualities which they have acquired, and upon the imperfections from which they have still to free themselves. This classification, however, is by no means absolute. It is only in its totality that the character of each category is distinctly marked, and for each category emerges in one above it by imperceptible gradations, the peculiarities of the successive categories shading off into one another at their extremities, as is a case of the various rains of nature in the colors of a rainbow in the phases of a human life. Spirits may therefore be divided into a number of classes more or less considerable, according to the point of view from which we considered the matter. It is in this matter as in all other systems of scientific classification. The systems adopted may be more or less complete, more or less rational, more or less convenient for the understanding, but whatever may be their form, they change nothing in regard to the facts of the science which employs them. That the answers of spirits, when questioned on this point, should vary as to the number of categories into which they are divided is, therefore, a matter of no practical importance. Too much weight has been attributed to this apparent contradiction by those who forgot that disincarnate intelligence attach no importance whatever to mere conventionalities. For them, the meaning of a statement is the only important point about it. They leave to us the question of its form, the choice of terms, and of classification. In a word, all that belongs to the making of systems. Another thing that we should never lose sight of is the fact that there are among spirits as well as among men some who are very ignorant, and that we cannot be too much on our guard against a tendency to believe that all spirits know everything simply because they're spirits. The work of classification demands method, analysis, and a thorough knowledge of the subject investigated. But those who, in the spirit world, possess only a small amount of knowledge are as incompetent as are ignorant human beings to embrace the world, the whole, of any subject or to formulate a system. They have no idea, or but a very imperfect one, of any sort of classification. All spirits superior to themselves appear to them to be of the highest order, for they are as incapable of discriminating the various shades of knowledge, capacity, and morality by which they are distinguished, as one of our savages. Sorry about that, guys. So one of our savages would be to discriminate the various characteristics of civilized men. And even those who are capable of this discrimination may vary in appreciation of details according to their special point of view, especially in regard to a matter which from its very nature has nothing fixed or absolute about it. Linnaeus, Jussieu, Tournefort have each their special system of classification, but the nature botany has not been changed by this diversity of system among botanists. The latter have not invented either plants or their characteristics. They have merely observed certain analogies according to which they have formed certain groups or classes. And we have proceeded in the same way. We have not invented either spirits or their characteristics. We have seen and observed them. We have judged them by their own words and acts. We have classed them by order of similitude, basing our classifications on the data furnished by themselves. The higher spirits generally admit the existence of three principal categories, or main divisions among the people of the other world. In the lowest of these, at the bottom of the ladder, are the imperfect spirits, characterized by the predominance of the instincts of materiality over moral nature, and by the propensity to evil. Those of the second degree are characterized by the predominance of the moral nature over the material instincts and by the desire of good. They constitute the category of good spirits. The first or highest category consists of those who have reached the state of pure spirits and have thus attained to the supreme degree of perfection imaginable by us. This division of spirits into three well-marked categories appears to us to be perfectly rational, and having arrived at this general classification, it only remained for us to bring out, through a sufficient number of subdivisions, the principal shades of the three great spirit categories thus established. And this we have done with the aid of the spirits themselves, whose friendly instructions have never failed us in the carrying out of the work upon which we have been led to enter. With the aid of the following table, we get a table. Virgo. The Virgo in me is so happy right now. With the aid of the following table, it will be easy for us to determine the rank and degree of superiority or inferiority of the spirits with whom we may enter into communication, and consequently the degree of esteem and confidence to which they are entitled. The power of determining these points may be said to constitute the key to Spiritist investigation, for it alone, by enlightening us to regard to the intellectual and moral inequalities of spirits, can explain the anomalies presented by spirit communications. We have, however, to remark that spirits do not in all cases belong exclusively to such and such a class. Their progress in knowledge and purity only being accomplished gradually and often for a time more in the one than in the other, they may unite the characteristics of several subdivisions, a point which is easily settled by observing their language and their acts. Third order, imperfect spirits. Question 101. General characteristics: predominant influence of matter over spirit, propension to evil, ignorance, pride, selfishness, and all the evil passions which result from these. Okay, that's not a question. All right, so this is, I guess, information he was able to take. It's not in his notes or in the spirit's notes, so I'm just going to read it. I don't know who is I'm assuming Allan Kardec is the author of this part, based on his research with the spirits. They have the intuition of the existence of God, but they have no comprehension of him. They are not all of them thoroughly bad. In many of them, there is more of a frivolity, want of reasoning power, and love of mischief than of downright wickedness. Some of them do neither good nor evil, but the very fact that they do no good denotes their inferiority. Others, on the contrary, take pleasure in evil and are gratified when they find an opportunity of doing wrong. Among spirits of this order, a certain amount of intelligence is often aligned with malice and the love of mischief. Whatever may be their intellectual development, their ideas are wanting in elevation, and their sentiments are more or less abject. Their knowledge of the things of the spirit world is narrow, and the little they know about them is confused with the ideas and prejudices of the corporeal life. They can give only false and incomplete notions of the spirit world, but the attention observer may always find in their communications, however imperfect, the confirmation of the great truths proclaimed by spirits of the higher orders. Their character is revealed by their language. Every spirit who in his communications betrays an evil intention may be arranged in the third order. Consequently, every evil thought suggested to our mind comes to us from a spirit of that order. They see the happiness enjoyed by good spirits. This sight causes them perpetual torment, for they experience all the agonies produced by envy and jealousy. They preserve the remembrance and the perception of the sufferings of corporeal life, and this impression is often more painful than the reality. They suffer, in fact, both from the ills they have themselves endured and from those which they have caused to be endured by others. And as these sufferings endure for a very long time, they believe themselves to be destined to suffer forever. God, for their punishment, wills that they should believe this. They may be subdivided into 5 principal classes. 102. I guess it's not really question, but question 102? I don't know. 10th class, impure spirits. They are inclined to evil and make it the object of all their thoughts and activities. As spirits, they give to men perfidious counsels, stir up discord and distrust, and assume every sort of mask in order the more effectually to deceive. They beset those whose character is weak enough to lead them to yield to their suggestions, and whom thus they draw aside from the path of progress, rejoicing when they are to retard their advancement by causing them to succumb under the appointed trials of corporeal life. Spirits of this class may be recognized by their language, for the employment of coarse or trivial expressions by spirits, as by men, is always an indication of moral, if not of intellectual inferiority. Their communications show the baseness of their inclinations, and though they may try to impose upon us by speaking with an appearance of reason and propriety, they are unable to keep up that false appearance and end up betraying their real quality. Certain nations have made of them infernal deities, and others designate them by the name of demons or evil genii or evil spirits. The human beings in whom they are incarnated are addicted to all the vices engendered by vile and degrading passions: sensuality, cruelty, roguery, hypocrisy, cupidity. What is cupidity? Isn't Cupid an angel that makes people fall in love? Cupidity? I'll look that up later. Cupidity and avarice. I think avarice means hubris, or having an ego, thinking that you're better than other people. Avarice. They do evil for its own sake, without any definitive motive, and from hatred to all that is good. They generally choose their victims from among honest and worthy people. They are the pests of humanity, to whatever rank of society they belong, and the varnish of a civilized education is ineffectual to cure or hide their degrading effects. Ninth class, frivolous spirits. They are ignorant, mischievous, unreasonable, and addicted to mockery. They meddle with everything and reply to every question without paying any attention to the truth. They delight in causing petty annoyances, in raising false hopes of petty joys, in misleading people by mystifications and trickery. The spirits vulgarly called hobgoblins, will-o'-the-wisps, gnomes, etc. belong to this class. They are under the orders of spirits of a higher category, who make use of them as we do of servants. In their communications with men, their language is often witty and facetious, but shallow. They are quick to seize the oddities and absurdities of men and things, on which they comment with sarcastic sharpness. If they borrow distinguished names, as they are fond of doing, it is rather for the fun of the thing than from any intention to deceive by doing so. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available, or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly Me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together. Number 104. 8th class spirits who pretend to more science than they possess. Their knowledge is often considerable, but they imagine themselves to know a good deal more than they know in reality. Having made a certain amount of progress from various points of view, their language has an air of gravity that may easily give a false impression as to their capacities and enlightenment. But their ideas are generally nothing more than the reflection of the prejudices and false reasoning of their terrestrial life. Their statements contain a mixture of truth and absurdities, in the midst of which traces of presumption, pride, jealousy, and obstinacy, from which they have not yet freed themselves, are abundantly perceptible. Number 105. 7th class neutral spirits. They are not sufficiently advanced to take an active part in doing good, nor are they bad enough to be active in doing wrong. They incline sometimes to the one, sometimes to the other, and do not rise above the ordinary level of humanity, either in point of morality or of intelligence. They are strongly attached to the things of this world, whose gross satisfactions they regret. Number 106. 6th class noisy and boisterous. I think it's supposed to be, it's a typo, boisterous spirits, I think. It doesn't say it anywhere else, just the one place. Okay, so number 106, 6th class noisy and boisterous spirits. Now, spirits of this kind do not, strictly speaking, form a distinct class in virtue of their personal qualities. They may belong to all the classes of the third order. They often manifest their presence by the production of phenomena perceptible to the senses, such as raps, the movement and normal displacing of solid bodies, agitation of the air, etc. They appear to be more than any other class of spirits attached to matter. They seem to be the principal agents in determining the vicissitudes of the elements of the globe, and to act upon air, water, fire, and the various bodies in the entrails of the earth. Whenever these phenomena present a character of intention and intelligence, it is impossible to attribute them to a mere fortuitous and physical cause. All spirits are able to produce physical phenomena, but spirits of elevated degree usually leave them to those of a lower order for more apt for action upon matter than for the things of intelligence, and when they judge it to be useful to produce physical manifestations, employ spirits of subaltern degree as their auxiliaries. Second order, good spirits. Number 107. General characteristics. Predominance of spirit over matter. Desire of excellence. Their qualities and their power for good are proportionate to the degree at which they have arrived. Some of them possess scientific knowledge. Others have acquired wisdom and charity. The more advanced among them combine knowledge with moral excellence. Not being yet completely dematerialized, they preserve the traces of their corporeal existence, more or less strongly marked, according to their rank traces, which are seen either in their mode of expressing themselves in their habits, or even in some cases in the characteristic eccentricities and hobbies still retained by them. But for these weaknesses and imperfections, they would be able to pass into the category of spirits of their first order, or of the first order, sorry. They have acquired the comprehension of the idea of God and of infinity, and already share the felicity of the higher spheres. They find their happiness both in the accomplishment of good and the prevention of evil. The affection by which they are united affords them ineffable delight, troubled neither by envy, remorse, nor any other of the evil passions which make the torments of spirits of lower degree. But they still have to undergo the discipline of trial until they have completed the work of their purification. As spirits, they infuse good and noble thoughts into the minds of men, turn them from the path of evil, protect those whose course of life renders them worthy of their aid, and neutralize by their suggestions the influences of lower spirits on the minds of those who do not willingly yield to the evil counsels of the latter. The human beings in whom they are incarnated are upright and benevolent. They are actuated neither by pride, selfishness, nor ambition. They neither feel hatred, rancor, envy, nor jealousy, and they do good for its own sake. To this order belong the spirits commonly designated in the popular beliefs by the names of good genii, protecting genii, good spirits. In periods of ignorance and superstition, men have regarded them as beneficent divinities. They may be divided into four principal groups. 108. Fifth class, benevolent spirits. Their dominant quality is kindness. They take pleasure in rendering service to men and in protecting them. But their knowledge is somewhat narrow. They have progressed in morality rather than in intelligence. Number 109. Fourth class, learned spirits. They're specially distinguished by the extent of their knowledge. They are less interested in moral questions than in scientific investigation, for which they have the greater aptitude. But their scientific studies are always prosecuted with a view to practical utility, and they are entirely free from the base passions common to spirits of the lower degrees of advancement. Number 110. Third class wise spirits. The most elevated moral qualities form their distinctive characteristics. Without having arrived at the possession of unlimited knowledge, they have reached a development of intellectual capacity that enables them to judge correctly of men and of things. 111. Second class high spirits. They unite in a very high degree scientific knowledge, wisdom, and goodness. Their language, inspired only by the purest benevolence, is always noble and elevated, often sublime. Their superiority renders them more apt than any others to impart to us just and true ideas in relation to the incorporeal world, within the limits of the knowledge permitted to mankind. They willingly enter into communication with those who seek for truth in simplicity and sincerity, and who are sufficiently freed from the bonds of materiality to be capable of understanding it, but they turn from those whose inquiries are prompted only by curiosity, or who are drawn away from the path of rectitude by the attractions of materiality. When, under exceptional circumstances, they incarnate themselves in this earth, it is always for the accomplishment of a mission of progress, and thus they show us the highest type of perfection to which we can aspire in the present world. First order, pure spirits. Number 112. General characteristics. The influence of matter null, a superiority, both intellectual and moral, so absolute as to constitute what, in comparison with the spirits of all the other orders, may be termed perfection. Number 113. First and only class. They have passed up through every degree on the scale of progress and have freed themselves from all impurities of materiality. Having attained the sum of perfection of which created beings are susceptible, they have no longer to undergo either trials or expiations. Being no longer subject to reincarnation in perishable bodies, they enter on the life of eternity in the immediate presence of God. They are in the enjoyment of a beatitude which is unalterable, because they are no longer subject to the wants or vicissitudes of material life. But this beatitude is not the monotonous idleness of perpetual contemplation. They are the messengers and ministers of God, the executors of his orders in the maintenance of universal harmony. They exercise a sovereign command over all spirits inferior to themselves, aid them in accomplishing the work of their purification, and assign to each of them a mission proportioned to the progress already made by them. To assist men in their distresses, to excite them to the love of good, or to the expiation of the faults which keep them back on the road to the supreme felicity, are for them congenial occupations. They are sometimes spoken of as angels, archangels, or seraphim. They can, when they choose to do so, enter into communication with men, but presumptuous indeed would he be who should pretend to have them at his orders. Progression of it's a sphinx. Really lots of typos in this manuscript. Sorry. I'm sure that means spirits, so we're going to just say that. Progression of spirits. Question 114. Are spirits good or bad by nature, or are they the same spirits made better through their own efforts? The answer of the spirits are the same spirits made better through their own efforts. In growing better, they pass from a lower to a higher order. Question 115. Are some spirits created good and others created bad? The spirits answer, God has created all spirits in a state of simplicity and ignorance, that is to say, without knowledge. He has given to each of them a mission with a view to enlighten them and to make them gradually arrive at perfection through the knowledge of the truth, and thus to bring them nearer and nearer to himself. This perfection is for them the condition of eternal and unalloyed happiness. Spirits acquire knowledge by passing through the trials imposed on them by God. Some of them accept these trials with submission and arrive more quickly at the aim of their destiny. Others undergo them with murmuring and thus remain, through their own fault, at a distance from the perfection and the felicity promised to them. The follow-up question is, according to this statement, it would appear that spirits at their origin are like children, ignorant and without experience, but acquiring little by little the knowledge which they lack by passing through the different phases of human life? The spirits answer, yes, the comparison is correct. The child, if rebellious, remains ignorant and faulty. He profits more or less according to his docility, but the life of man has a term, whereas that of spirits stretches out into infinity. Question 116. Do any spirits remain forever in the lower ranks? The spirits answer, no. All become perfect. They change in course of time, however long may be the process of amendment. For, as we've already said, a just and merciful parent cannot condemn his children to eternal banishment. Can you suppose that God, so great, so good, so just, is less kind than you are? Question 117. Does it depend on the spirits themselves to hasten their progress toward perfection? And the spirits answer, certainly. They reach the goal more or less quickly according to the strength of their desire and degree of their submission to the will of God. Does not a docile child learn faster than one who is obstinate and idle? Question 118. Can spirits degenerate? The spirits answer, no. In proportion as they advance, they understand what has retarded their progress. When a spirit has finished with any given trial, he's learned the lesson of that trial and never forgets it. He may remain stationary, but he never degenerates. I guess that means going backwards in this case. Becoming unenlightened. Like Benjamin Button of spirits, if you will. All right. Question 119. Could God exonerate spirits from the trials which they have to undergo in order to reach the highest rank? The spirits answer, if they had been created perfect, they would not have merited the enjoyment of the benefits of that perfection. Where would be the merit without the struggle? Besides, the inequality which exists between spirits is necessary to the development of their personality. And moreover, the mission which each spirit accomplishes at each step of his progress is an element of the providential plan for ensuring the harmony of the universe. Now, Allan Kardec has a note. He says, since in social life all men may reach the highest posts, we might as well ask why the sovereign of a country does not make a general of each of its soldiers, why all subaltern functionaries are not made heads of departments, why all scholars are not schoolmasters. But there is this difference between the life of the social and the spirit worlds, viz., that the first is limited and does not afford to everyone the possibility of raising himself to the highest rank, whereas the second is unlimited and assures to everyone the possibility of attaining to a supreme degree. Question 120. Do all spirits pass by the road of evil to arrive at good? The spirits answer, not by the road of evil, but by that of ignorance. Question 121. How is it that some spirits have followed the road of good and others the road of evil? And the spirits answer, have they not their free will? God has not created any spirits bad. He has created them simple and ignorant. That is to say, possessing an equal aptitude for good and for evil. Those who become bad become so of their own free will. Question 122. How can spirits at their origin, when they have not yet acquired self-consciousness, possess freedom of choice between good and evil? Is there in them any principle, any tendency, which inclines them towards either road rather than towards the other? And the spirits answer, free will is developed in proportion as the spirit acquires a consciousness of himself. Freedom would not exist for the spirit if his choice were solicited by a cause independent of his will. The cause which determines his choice is not in him, but exterior to him, in the influences to which he voluntarily yields in virtue of the freedom of his will. It is this choice that is represented Tinder, the grand figure of the fall of man and of original sin. Some spirits have yielded to temptation and others have withstood it. Follow-up question. Whence comes the influences that act upon him? Spirits answer, from the imperfect spirits who seek to take possession of him and to dominate him, and who are happy to see him succumb. It is this temptation that is allegorically pictured as Satan. So, follow-up question to that. Does this influence act upon a spirit only at its origin? The spirits answer, it follows him through all the phases of his existence as a spirit until he has acquired such thorough self-command that evil spirits renounce the attempt to obsess him. Question 123. Why has God permitted it to be possible for spirits to take the wrong road? Spirits answer, the wisdom of God is shown in the freedom of choice, which he leaves to every spirit, for each has thus the merit of his deeds. Question 124. Since there are spirits who from the beginning follow unswervingly the right path and others who wander into the low steps of evil, there are no doubt many degrees of deviation between these two extremes. There are no doubt many degrees of deviation between these two extremes? Sorry, it's a question. The spirits say, yes, certainly. And these degrees constitute the paths of the great majority of spirits. Question 125. Will the spirits who have chosen the wrong road be able to reach the same degree of elevation as the others? And the spirits answer, yes, but the eternities will be longer in their case. Now, Allan Kardec adds a comment here. He says, this expression, the eternities, must be understood as referring to the belief of spirits of inferior degree in the perpetuity their sufferings, resulting from the fact that it is not given them to foresee the termination of the sufferings, and that the conviction of the perpetuity of the latter is renewed after every new trial to which they have succumbed. Question 126. Are spirits who have reached the supreme degree after wandering into the wrong road less meritorious than the others in the sight of God? Spirits say, God regards the wanderers who have returned to the right road with the same approval and the same affection as the others. They have been classed for a time as evil spirits because they succumbed to the temptation of evil. Before their fall, they were merely neutral in regard to good and evil like all other spirits. Question 127. Are all spirits created equal in point of intellectual capacity? The spirits answer, they are all created equal, but not knowing from whence they come, for their free will must have its fling. They progress more or less rapidly in intelligence as in morality. And it is here that Allan Kardec has left another note. The spirits who from the beginning follow the right road do not thereby attain at once to the state of perfection, for, although they are free from evil tendencies, they have nonetheless to acquire the experience and varied knowledge indispensable to their perfection. They may be compared to children who, however good their natural instincts, need to be developed and enlightened, and who cannot attain to maturity without transition. But just as some men are good and others bad from infancy, so some spirits are good and others bad from their beginning, with this radical difference, however, that the child possesses instincts already formed, whereas the spirit in its formation is neither bad nor good, but possesses all possible tendencies and strikes out his path in the direction of good or evil through the action of his own free will. Question 128. Do the beings whom we call angels, archangels, seraphim, form a special category of a nature different from that of other spirits? The spirits say no. The spirits who have purified themselves from all imperfection have reached the highest degree to the scale of progress and united in themselves all species of perfection. And Allan Kardec says, the word angel is generally supposed to imply the idea of moral perfection, but it is often applied nevertheless to all beings, good or bad, beyond the pale of humanity. We'll say a good angel, a bad angel, angel of the light, angel of darkness, etc. In those cases, it's synonymous with spirit or genius. It is employed here in its highest sense. Question 129. Have the angels passed up through all the degrees of progress? The answer, they have passed up through all those degrees, but with the difference which we have already mentioned. Some of them, accepting their mission without murmuring, have reached the goal more quickly. Others have been longer in reaching the same goal. Question 130. If the opinion which admits that some beings have been created perfect and superior to all others be erroneous, how is it that this opinion is to be found in the tradition of almost every people? The spirits say, your world has not existed from all eternity. Long before it was called into being, hosts of spirits had already attained to the supreme degree, and therefore the people of your earth naturally supposed those perfected spirits to have always been at the same degree of elevation. 131. Are there any demons in the usual acceptation of that term? The spirits answer, if demons existed, they would be the work of God, but would it be just on the part of God to have created beings condemned eternally to evil and misery? If demons exist, it is in your low world, and in other worlds of similar degree, that they are to be found. They are the human hypocrites who represent a just God as being cruel and vindictive, and who imagine that they make themselves agreeable to him by the abominations that they commit in his name. All right, so now Allan Kardec says, it is only in its modern acceptation that the word demon implies the idea of evil spirits. For the Greek word daemon, from which it is derived, signifies genius, intelligence, and is applied indiscriminately to all incorporeal beings, whether good or bad. Demons or devils, according to the common acceptation of these words, are supposed to be a class of beings essentially bad. If they exist, they must necessarily be, like everything else, a creation of God. But God, who is sovereignly just and good, cannot have created beings predestined to evil by their very nature and condemned beforehand to eternal misery. So if, on the contrary, they are not a creation of God, they must have either existed like him from all eternity, or there must be several creators. The first requisite of every theory is to be consistent with itself, but that which asserts the existence of demons in the popular acceptation of the term lacks this essential condition of theoretical soundness. It was natural that the religious belief of peoples who, knowing nothing of the attributes of God, were backward enough to admit the existence of maleficent deities, should also admit the existence of demons, but on those who acknowledge the goodness of God to be his distinguishing quality. It is illogical and contradictory to suppose that he can have created things doomed to evil and destined to do evil forever. For such a supposition is a negation of his goodness. The partisans of the belief in devils appeal to the words of Christ in support of their doctrine, and is certainly not who we would contest the authority of his teachings, which we would fain see established not merely on the lips of men, but also in their hearts. But are those partisans quite sure of the meaning attached be him to the word devil? Is it not fully admitted that the allegorical form is one of the distinctive characteristics of his utterances, and that the Gospels contain many things which are not to be taken literally? To prove that such is the case, we need only quote the following passage. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things are fulfilled. Have we not seen that the form of the biblical text in reference to the creation and movement of the earth is contradicted by the discoveries of science? May it not be the same in regard to certain figurative expressions employed by Christ in order to adapt his teachings to the time and scene of the mission? Christ could not have made a statement knowing it to be false. If therefore his sayings contain statements which appear contrary to reason, it's either evident that we do not understand their meaning or that we've interpreted them erroneously. Men have done in regard to devils what they have done in regard to angels. Just as they imagine that there are beings who are created perfect from all eternity, so they imagine the spirits of lower degrees were beings essentially and eternally bad. The words demon, devil, ought therefore to be understood as indicating impure spirits who are often no better than the imaginary beings designated by those names, but with this difference, viz., that their state of impurity and inferiority is only transitory. They are the imperfect spirits who rebel against the discipline of trial to which they are subjected, and who, therefore, have to undergo that discipline for a longer period, but who will nevertheless reach the goal in time, when they shall made up their minds to do so. The words demon and devil might accordingly be employed in the sense, but as they've come to be understood exclusively as conveying the meaning now shown to be false, their employment might lead into error by seeming to recognize the existence of beings specially created for evil. Now, in regards to the term Satan, it's evidently a personification of the principle of evil under an allegorical form, for it's impossible to admit the existence of a being who fights against God as an independent and rival power, and whose sole business in life is to contravene his designs. As images and figures are necessary in order to strike the human imagination, men have pictured to themselves the beings of the incorporeal world under a material form, with attributes indicative of good or bad qualities. It is thus that the ancients, wishing to personify the idea of time, represented it under the figure of an old man with a scythe and an hourglass. To have personified it under the figure of a youth would have been contrary to common sense. The same may be said of the allegories of fortune and truth, etc. The moderns have represented the angels or pure spirits under the form of radiant beings with white wings, emblem of purity Satan, with horns, claws, and attributes of bestiality, emblems of the lowest passions and the vulgar. Prone to understand such representations literally, have taken these allegorical embodiments of abstract ideas for real personalities, as they formerly did in regard to the allegorical personifications of the old mythology. And that's it. Next time in Book 2, we'll read Chapter 2 about the incarnation of spirits. But we are done for now. There's a lot to think about. I hope you've been enjoying the reading of the Spirits book. We will come back next Monday with more. Well, from this book, we are on page 106 out of 429. So that gives you an idea. It's a little tedious at times. Sorry about that. I'm trying to make it exciting. But the information is really good. I find it helpful. My higher guidance said that the classifications of spirits aren't 100% actually correct or real, but it is interesting to see where Mr. Revel's mind was going, Leon Revel. That's his real name. Allan Kardec was, as you recall, that's his name from a past life, where he was a druid. I believe they said in Scotland or Ireland. So pretty interesting, this research, isn't it? It's interesting to hear about it 162 years later, and most of it is real. The great majority of it. I don't know about the, classifying different spirits. I just think that it's true what they say, that we're all on a path and we choose good or evil, and then we take our punishment or get our reward for choosing what we choose. And I believe that we are ever attaining higher and higher, loftier goals, and so as we graduate, we get better and bigger rewards. Some of the things I didn't agree with, they said that the medium spirits, or maybe the medium spirits that are goodly don't attain to ambition. And I think that there are different reasons for men's ambitions. And one can be you are ambitious because you are selfish. And then that would be obviously of a lower nature. But maybe you're ambitious because you want to help people. If you're poor, you can only give so much money to charity. But if you become very wealthy and you're giving away tens of thousands of dollars a month to charity, then your ambition had a good basis to it. So I think that when you look at all of the things that he's talking about in the book, you have to consider there's reasons for everything under the sun. Not all of them are good and not all of them are bad. And some of them are just like the spirits themselves, just neutral. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. And speaking of spirits, please, please, please send in your ghost stories. I think other people want to hear your stories because I know I do. And it'll make for a very interesting Halloween episode. So for Metaphysical Ghost Speak, please send in stories of the supernatural and spirits and the like. Things that will make us a little chill to the bone on Halloween as we huddle under our blankets, sipping our hot chocolate and eating our popcorn and maybe our hot apple cider. I don't know what you guys do. That's what I do. That's what I do on Halloween. I drink a lot of hot drinks. Apple cider, tea, and hot chocolate. And I always have my popcorn. My healthy popcorn. But I definitely want to hear your stories. And I know other people do too. And also, please send in any magical or mystical, miraculous stories that you have surrounding the December holidays. And, well, I'll say November because we want to include Diwali. But anything surrounding Hanukkah, anything surrounding Christmas, especially when it pertains to the old jolly fat man himself, Santa Claus. I want to bring to the table for everybody enjoyable stories about seeing the real Santa. Even if it was just a glimpse or an impression, I want to hear about it. And other people do too. And that will be for a very special Christmas Eve episode that will be coming up in December. Now, I realize I'm asking this in September, but tomorrow is October 1st. And what that means is we only have 30 days to get this stuff in order. So please send it in as soon as possible, just so you'll have your story included. All right. Well, so ends and concludes Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast for today. Remember to send in any stories, comments, tips, or questions, or donations, or requests for readings to metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com. And that's it. I want to thank you guys for listening to the show. Thank you for being on this ascension journey with me. Thank you for exploring into the deep, deep, deep and profound truths of the past when we do these readings of the old books and learning about things like telepathy and clairvoyance and about the spirits and how God created the spirits and the universe. I can never, ever get enough of this information. And I hope you're the same as me. I hope that you enjoy it and that just every day you're just like, oh, I can't wait to hear the show because I'm telling you guys stuff that I want to learn about. And, well, if we're all interested in the same thing, that makes us soul family. We're in the same soul tribe. So welcome to the soul family. And I'm grateful, again, just to have you here. So I wanted to thank you. Thank you guys for all of your emails and letters I've been getting lately and all the people who have been following me on Instagram and Twitter at mermaidgirl888 and everything else. I've had like 6 people add me on Facebook just this past week. One guy was French and he sent me a series of numbers that looked like lottery numbers, and then he said apple. And then he sent me the same series of numbers with the word apple. And he sent this to me about 6 times. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He might have been extremely high on crack or something. He might have been drunk. I don't know. If you guys know anything about that, I would love to know what that means. Although the only thing I could keep thinking all day long, and it gave me a disturbing feeling, was remember the TV show Lost and the numbers for the hatch? They had to keep pushing the numbers into the computer or the island was going to blow up. I mean, that's all I could think about is that's what this guy, and he doesn't speak English. He only speaks French. I don't know him. I don't know why he added me. It's a mystery. If it ever gets solved, I'll let you know. It didn't look like a phone number though. It was 6 double-digit numbers, 12 numbers in total. So if you have any insights into that, let me know. Definitely send me a message on that one. Anyway, right now, that's all I got to say about that. So I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace.